my name is Mina Slater. I'm the software apprentice at DeafMind Software with Mercedes, and I'm also an organizer for Girl Developer Chicago chapter. Twitter and Instagram, that's my username, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. So I'm here today to talk to you about error messages. Scary looking as they are actually your friends. So the first time that we encounter an error message, we're probably pretty new to coding since error messages are sort of part of our everyday coding life. It's going to be one of the first things that we see when we start to learn. Our code, 9.99 times out of 10, will not work the first time you run it, or the second time, or the third time, or the 10th time sometimes. And as code newbies, when you encounter an error message, you probably will experience one or more of these three reactions. First of all, I did something wrong. Where do I start? I already know what's wrong. That guy's pretty smug. So first, we're going to address I did something wrong. Now the name itself, error messages, kind of implies that something is wrong or broken. And a lot of times as new programmers, we take that to mean that we made a mistake and it's something to be avoided. And I would argue that getting an error message means something is not working as expected in your program, but not that we did anything wrong. And since our inclination is to avoid them, we don't run our code often enough because we think it's not ready or done. We just code and code without running the actual program. When in fact, error messages is going to give you a roadmap for development. How many times have we stared at our code just thinking like, does this look right? Like, is it gonna do what I want it to? Just run it and see. I mean, the program is gonna tell you exactly whether it's right or wrong. And sometimes we get stuck, run the code. Error messages, a lot of times, will help us get out of a dead end, get unstuck, and move on. So I'd say they're pretty useful. So say we run our code, and an error message comes up. So where do we start? Error messages are intimidating, and they're overwhelming because they're long a lot of times, and they look like the fine print of a contract that nobody wants to read. And usually they're like red and look kind of angry, but they're going to tell you what the problem is if you know where to look. So this is a Rails browser error message that I got, and we're going to point out a few useful parts of that. So first of all, we have the file name and the line number where the error possibly originated. So it shows it up here, and Rails is really useful. It gives you more detail and a little bit of visuals, and highlights the line for you right there, somewhere to start. And Rails also gives you some suggested solutions. This here, did you mean? Gives you somewhere to start. Now, if both of those fail, there's always the stack trace. Oops. Back it up. Okay. Got excited. Okay, cool. The stack trace is going to tell us the path that our program took to get to the error. Because sometimes the error is not in an obvious location and we need to go in and dig deeper. Stack trace is going to tell us exactly where to go. And last but not least, this guy. I already know what's wrong. So we see the error message and we're like, great, something is wrong. I know what's wrong, I'm going to go fix it. And we don't read the error message. That usually just means that we end up breaking something else, and that original error still exists, is still a problem. There's not much to say there really, except read the error message. That's all you have to do. I have a story here. So my father-in-law, for years and years, subscribed to Scientific American magazine, and he would read them cover to cover. he's not a scientist. He was an engineer, but he's not a scientist. And he would not understand everything, but he would read every word in the magazine, because his philosophy is that if he exposes himself enough to like the vocabulary and the idea, the next time he sees it, he's gonna understand it a little better than the last time. So the bottom line is, error messages might not help you solve what's broken in your program right now. Read it anyway, because the more we're exposed to them, the less foreign they become. And the more we're exposed to them, the more likely it is for us to go from these guys to these guys. Thanks.